Hello students, for this week's assignments, we're gonna go back and review how to work with integers, and more than anything, how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. Remember on the integers, we have the whole numbers and their opposites, so that will be integers. And just a quick review, the absolute value of 12 will give me equals to 12. The absolute value of -5 is 5. So remember that the absolute value will always be positive. So keep that in mind. So let's go back and practice some of the problems for this week. So we have it the 12 plus 5. This one is a regular addition. It's a 12 plus 5. That will be just a 17. Now, here we're going to go and start with integers. So -7 plus the -11. So notice the rule says that when you're adding integers and they have the same sign, this is a negative and this is a negative. So you add and keep the sign. So in this case, it will be 18. When we add 11 and 7 is 18. And we keep the sign, so it's going to be a -18. Keep that in mind, okay? So moving on. So now I have a 6, and we're adding a -4. We're adding a -4. So in this case, we have the same sign. You ask yourself, no, this one is positive, this one is negative. So in this case, we're going to subtract 6 minus 4. Sorry. So 6 minus 4. And the answer will be 2. Now from these two, you ask yourself, which one has the greatest absolute value? I know the absolute value of 6 is 6. I know the absolute value of -4 is 4. So which one is bigger, the 6? And I noticed that the 6 was positive, so that's why my answer has to be positive. Then moving on. So we have now that is a 10, -10 plus 3. So once again, we notice that there are different signs. So at this point, I'm going to subtract 10 minus 3. So that will be a 7. Now you ask yourself, the absolute value of -10 is 10, and the absolute value of 3 is equals to 3. So which one has a greater absolute value? That will be 10. Since the 10 is negative, then my answer is going to be -7. Keep that in mind. Now, next example. Notice here, now we're going to subtract. We're subtracting -3 minus a -3. Now remember the rule that when we have a minus and then we're subtracting a negative, this we call it the double negative. So we'll say -3 and it goes back and changes to a +3. Now we can solve this one. And -3 plus 3, if we go back to the addition, we notice that it's going to be 0. So keep that in mind. Now this one, we're going to have a 3 minus 9. Now how can we take away 9 from 3? Well, the reason is because if you think of a number line, you can start at 3, and then you're going to go back 9 places. So we can subtract 9 minus 3. That will be 6. And just like on the addition problems, which one has a bigger absolute value? Thinking that this is a negative, okay? So this is a 3, this is a -9. So the negative has a greater absolute value, so that's why your answer is -6. One of the last examples about subtraction, notice that how these two have the same sign. So once they have the same sign, you add and keep the sign. So -7 and -2, that should be equals to -9. So you can also distinguish if they have the same sign or opposite signs. Now moving on, we're going to go into multiplying and dividing integers. This one, simple multiplication and division, just like multiplying and dividing whole numbers. And all you have to do is get the integer rules. Here's an example. When you multiply to positive, my answer is positive. When you divide to positive, my answer is positive. Multiply to negative, answer is positive. Divide to negative, answer is positive. Multiply a positive and a negative, my answer is negative. Divide a positive and a negative, my answer is negative. Multiply a negative and a positive, the answer is negative. Divide a negative and a positive, my answer is still negative. Or if some of you might remember the tic-tac-toe rule. If you multiply or divide positive and negative, my answer is negative. If you multiply or divide negative and a positive, my answer is negative. If you multiply or divide negative and a negative, my answer is positive. So if they have different signs, my answer will always be negative. If they have the same sign, my answer will always be positive. So there you have it. If you have any questions to complete your assignment, please let me know. Your assignment starts here. So you have about 10 questions to complete. Make sure you work these problems on your own paper, or if you have the copy of this handout, work on it, answer, and make sure you go back and in Google Classroom submit your answers. And once again, if you have any questions, please let me know. See you next time.